Welcome back to Sportsnet Lakers, brought to you by Arrowhead Mountain Spring Water. I'm Allie Clifton, joined by James Worthy, Robert Ory, Mike Bresnahan. We've got Geeter and Mike Trudell handling the post-game locker room responsibilities downtown. Guys, Lakers came in looking much more like the team we are accustomed to seeing. Take Game 2, even the series at 1-all. 2 big points of emphasis coming in. Turn up the physicality. I'd argue from the eye test, it looks much better night and day from Game 1 to Game 2. And then adjusting defensively to Minnesota threes. You go from allowing them to shoot 50% on 21 of 42 in Game 1 to forcing them into a season-low 5 made threes tonight on just 20%, 5 of 25. Luka led the way offensively, 31, 12, and 9. Big game, a great response by LA.
Yeah, it was a must response from the Lakers in Game 2 tonight. They had to come out and set the tone with their bodies and their minds and with that physical tone that they had tonight. And they did it by, eliminating, a lot of the easy shots that Minnesota got in Game 1. I didn't see too many just wide open, uncontested shots, maybe 2 or 3 toward the end. I think Minnesota's bench last game, scored plus 40 points, I believe. 43 points tonight. I don't think that was
19.
A problem. And, when you get fouled and you go to the line 20 times and you hit them all, that right there helps you make up a lot. So I just thought overall, guys like Gabe Vincent early in the game, they needed to get some of the others involved. He was aggressive. And, Luka did his thing. LeBron, I just thought as a team, overall, they were connected. And they did it with force. They met Minnesota's force tonight.
Rob, I'm going to have you hold your thoughts. Speaking of Bron, 21, 11, and 7. We'll go back downtown. He is speaking with Mike Trudell.
LeBron, you've said throughout your career, it's all about adjustments in the postseason. What did you guys do after Game 1 to get this result in Game 2?
We understood that it was a playoff game. I think that's the difference.
So much that you have to put into it on both ends. Can you take me through that play, though? You have a turnover, and Anthony Edwards has the ball at midcourt. Where did you see you were going to be able to step in there, get the ball, and finish?
Just trying to make a play. That was a big possession right there. They had numbers. I didn't think he saw me, in the rear view, so I was able to jump the pass lane and also make the layup.
You guys put a lot into it defensively, LeBron. What was the key on that end, and where did it come from the collective as a unit?
That's what it's going to take. They play hard as hell. We got to play hard as hell. They play with a lot of intensity. We got to match their intensity. So, it's going to be like this all series.
What are you starting to learn about Luka in a playoff context as a teammate as you guys grow in that way?
Nothing. I've watched it for 7 years, so nothing at all. Luka is Luka.
Last one for you. Key as you head now fly to Minnesota for Game 3 and 4.
Hostile environment, but we got to come in with the same mindset as we had tonight. Understanding it's a playoff game. No possessions we can take off. We got to play with intensity, energy, and effort. If you're not dog-ass tired after this game, after any of these games, then you didn't give it all you had. So that's what it's about.
All right, go get some rest.
Certainly 94-85 felt a little old school. Rob, your thoughts?
He was focused, man. You can tell by a player's interview. When playoff comes around, the jovialness kind of disappears and getting locked in. You can see right there that he's locked in. For him to make that statement that, he realizes it's a playoff game, I think he has to put that on himself because he's the leader of that group. He's been in his team, been in the league for 20-plus years, and so he has to get this team ready. I think they locked in, and sometimes when you have a week off, you kind of come out a little rusty. And you could really see tonight defensively how in tune they were with one another. I thought the defensive game plan was excellent. The only thing is they need to figure a way out when they ISO Ant-Man up top because that's the only thing. On the wing, they're good. But other than that, I think they had an excellent game plan from the offense to the defense to just, the rotations. Everything was good.
The bad news for the Minnesota Timberwolves is there were 3 days between games after Game 1. So Lakers got to read and hear about and watch on TV how they were out physical so badly in Game 1. And I thought J.J. Redick set the tone right after that game 3 days ago. He said, we need to think of it as a playoff game. We thought of this as a regular season game. Tonight was a playoff game. And the Laker defense was incredible. 85 points for Minnesota. After losing to this team by 22 a few days ago, season low for the Timberwolves, no less. Lakers forced 3 turnovers in the final 3 minutes and also blocked Julius Randle's shot to end another Minnesota possession. Great job by the Laker D. Alley. They won the game tonight down the stretch.
I think, too, speaking of down the stretch, you think of execution, which was a big focal point coming into this series, as JJ mentioned before, even game 1. And you speak of the defense that you guys have all alluded to and discussed. You just mentioned it was a season low in points for Minnesota at 85. By the way, they held the longest active streak in terms of points scored over 100 at 59 straight games. You hold them well below that, 15, obviously, in a playoff game. Big game. How do you now take this and translate it to the road here in the postseason?
Yeah, it was good that they had that type of
3 from 3. You negate that, you get a win.
Now the Lakers have to go on the road. Obviously, really good home team this year. Not as good on the road, and not very good in Minnesota going back to 2021. They've only won 1 time at Target Center, James and Rob and Allie. So Lakers need to kind of really dial even more into the playoff atmosphere, because you got to win on the road. Minnesota already did. They already wrenched back home court advantage after the Lakers worked so hard for 6 months to get a top 4 seed. So now it's on the Lakers to go in their alley in 3 nights. So again, they get a nice break. LeBron said, hey, you got to be dead tired after a game like this.
That's not what he said. Say what he said.
I'll leave that to you guys. You can get away with it.
Yeah.
But they got time to rest. Got to get on the flight, get to Minnesota. But, you know, that game 3 is going to be a big deal.
Look, it wasn't always pretty. You point to a guy like Jaden McDaniels, who was a lot of talk coming out of game 1, and rightfully so. He had 25 in game 1 on 11 of 13 from the field, 3 for 3 from deep. Much more attention to him, obviously, from an intensity standpoint. And you see the result. Naz Reid, the same thing. We always call him the Laker killer. Tonight, not effective or impactful. I do want to kind of go to the flip side of all of this, obviously, from an offensive standpoint, because it always wasn't pretty either. But I will say the Minnesota Timberwolves, they were 20-1 when holding opponents to under 100 points. The Lakers with 94, led by Luka. A lot of talk coming in. How would he respond? He put it on himself. He had 31, 12, and 9. The 9 assists is what I am looking at, obviously, because just 1 in game 1.
Mm-hmm.
Key point, Allie. You know, he distributed the ball. Obviously, he's a threat. But, you know, when he's a threat, collapsing the defense and finding guys, that makes, you know, everybody gets involved. And I thought he did a good job of distributing. Then it was 23 tonight, so versus 15 and the 1 he had. So, yeah, that ball's got to move. The defense for Minnesota is too good to ISO too much. It's got to move, and things really finny. Guys get cuts back doors. So that's the key. It's good to see he's, you know, distributing the ball like he can.
For me, I was really excited the fact that he just didn't settle for the 3. Even though he shot 8 threes, you know, out of the 20 shots, he got to the paint. You know, he got guys involved. When Luka is able to get into the paint and get guys off their feet, he's able to find guys. You saw, you know, Finney cutting baseline. You saw Vando in the corner. You saw all these guys he was distributing. And we know the guys coming off the bench and Rui and Jax Hayes, those guys need you to be the distributor, you know, the facilitator. Whatever you do, get them involved, because they can't create shots like you, LeBron, and AR. So those guys depend on you. If he's able to do that more, that puts this Minnesota defense, who's really, really good, on their heels, because now they just can't pack the paint. Because the reason they're so good, because I've done this with Shaq, done this with Dream, done this with Tim. When you got a guy back there who can erase your mistakes, it allows you to be aggressive. But you can't be afraid to attack Gobert. It's like, you think about these guys. Gobert is a shot blocker, yeah, but try to dunk on him. You know that layup Finney missed? Dunk on him. Put the onus on the refs to make this call, and you just can't do this. And so for me, I think they'll look at film and say, yo, don't be scared of Gobert. Dunk on him.
You know what we kept saying in the conference room, that first half in particular, Allie? It was really chippy out there tonight. Yeah. James, Rob, you guys, when you played, there was more than chippy. You had clotheslining, you had guys getting thrown across the floor and only a common foul being called. You got to be more careful in this day and age in the NBA. But I like the chippiness. I like Austin Reeves going at Naz Reid. Naz Reid, he's a big gentleman. His shoulders are so broad. He looks like an elevator when he walks into a room. And Austin Reeves showed absolutely no fear, kind of jawing at him in that second quarter. I just liked how the Lakers responded. Vando, we've seen him kind of be the enforcer a couple times. He also got in the opponent's faces a couple times tonight. I was impressed by the chip on the Lakers' shoulder.
Yeah.
JJ certainly had a chip. Just go listen to the audio in that third quarter. You were sitting right there.
I was there sitting in Rob's seat, Rob's floor seat right there. So when you're there, you know, you can see all that. Like, you know, one time I saw Finney Smith, like, telling the guys, hey, let's go. Let's get going. JJ came out of a timeout. I can't tell you everything he said, but man,
yes, you can. You're the Hall of Famer.
He came all the way out on the floor. He was not happy. So, and you need that. You want that. You got to get that kind of fire going and get it out. You know, and it paid well for the Lakers.
Let's see if he addresses that. How were Rob's seats, by the way?
Oh, Rob is so connected, man. China, Dubai, everywhere. Alabama.
International man.
Alabama. We're going to go back downtown.
Houston, Texas.
Well, you're from JJ Redick. He's speaking with Mike in the media.
Oh, my God.
JJ, when you spoke to us after game one, you kind of went right to the physicality as the biggest thing. Did you notice that from the jump, and did you feel like that was the biggest difference between the two?
We were very physical tonight, as were they.
What do you think, adjustment-wise, what was something that you felt like worked for you guys as you held them to, you know, in the low 80s in points?
Again, we were physical. I think, you know, playoffs require a different level, and like I said pregame, it took us about 2.5 quarters in game one to get to that level of physicality.
JJ, it was, I think, midway in that third quarter. They cut it to 11. You seemed like you were trying to get you guys to run a play, sideline, you call timeout, pretty animated. Because what led to that frustration, and what did you think of the response from the team to, I think, increase the lead back up to 20 in the aftermath of that?
Not frustration, just coaching. I think when we were organized in the right spots. We ran some good stuff, and frankly, yeah, I thought we missed some open threes. AR got some great looks. So I mean, other than just a couple, kind of disorganized plays, we played good offense tonight, and I just there was you as a coach, you can see it coming when the other side of that is on the horizon, and it was building, and just wanted to make sure everybody was on the same page.
Just to kind of follow up on that, you guys had 58 points in the first half, 36 in the second half. How much of that was just you felt like the shot quality was good and missing open looks?
I don't know what our turnover total. I know we had at least one shot clock violation there in the fourth, and I don't know what our turnover total was in the second half, but I mean, I can think of 5 or 6 plays. Bron twice from 4 feet in the paint, Rui at the rim, LeBron from the corner, Doe with a couple great looks from the corner. Again, we're going to live with that process and live with that result. And I think it's fair to say we won the game with our defense tonight, but our offense had a lot to do with that. Not allowing them to get out in transition, and when they did, as AR did late in the game, taking the charge, we were able to stop them from scoring, or in some cases stop them from even getting a quick shot up, and then they had to run half-court offense. So I just think as much as it was the defense tonight, our offense actually helped quite a bit with some of the transition stuff.
JJ, Rui got, to your right, Rui got banged up, has to put a mask on. At one point, he throws the mask off, keeps competing, gets fit for another mask, and he's battling on the block. He's going into the lane on offense. He's trying to get offensive rebounds. Just how do you think his effort typified the shift you guys wanted to see in physicality tonight?
Yeah, he played like a warrior tonight. I'm sure that he's probably in the X-ray room right now. But he did a lot of really good things. I think when we watched the tape, there was a few plays that he made, just getting deflections and disrupting plays, leading to late shot clock possessions for them. Some plays at the rim, that don't show up in the box score, but he was awesome tonight.
JJ, minus some, I guess, anomaly minutes through 6 games against them this season, it's looked a lot like that in terms of low scoring and kind of a rock fight. Is it fair? Have you seen enough in the series to kind of anticipate it's going to look to some degree like this moving forwards?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think you can sort of anticipate that, but you know, we weren't ready for a rock fight to start game 1, so I've seen enough of these and been in enough of these that, you know, you can have these low-scoring games and sort of low offensive output games that are really physical, and all of a sudden somebody starts making threes. There's a few turnovers that leads to a high transition half, and somebody scores 120. That's just kind of how basketball works. Every game is a little different, but I think the mentality for both teams is to have a rock fight.
JJ, the timeout you were discussing a few minutes ago got a lot of play online because the TV captured some very colorful language, and obviously the guys can handle a few curse words, but yeah. I'm just curious, when you do call a timeout, you do see that tide starting to turn, you want to make an impact to have the kind of run you guys had afterward. How do you sense when to really lay into them, and how do you sense when to not, so that you're not just always barking?
Yeah, I mean, I've done that in a game a handful of times in 6 preseason games, 82 regular season. It was at 90 games. I've done it a handful of times. It's not something that I want to do. It's something I'm more than comfortable doing. But I think tonight it was just more about getting.
Took an exit with that elbow. Wasn't sure what we were going to get in response from him. We saw him in the back, a lot of blood. Went through 2 face masks. JJ said he played like a warrior. Sometimes in the playoffs, that's what it's going to take. Well,
he brought what he needed to bring, and that's his presence, his size. You know, he's a guy that can be a bruiser in there. And, you know, he was a little bit more aggressive early in the game than he was in the last game. There he is right there, nice cut. You know, he's capable of knocking down the 3. I like that little 8-footer. But Rui's going to have to be one of the guys that, you know, brings those shoulders and that beat to the game every night against his team. He's got to show that he's able to compete with that. Don't back down. He can score points, and he will. But most importantly, he's got to rebound, keep people, you know, out of his space, and let the other team know that there's some physical presence there. He did a good job tonight.
I think when you watch Rui play, he's able to guard everybody on the Minnesota Timberwolves starting lineup, and that's key because, you know, in this day and age, everybody wants to switch. And for him, if you switch off on Julius Randle, who's a brute, you know, he's going to beat up everybody to try to get to that basket. But he was bouncing off Rui. You know, he's bouncing off LeBron and bouncing off Luka. So I love the fact that he's able to stand there and withstand that. I know I've had my nose broken before in a game, and every time someone came, I was doing this, lynching, right? But I was very proud of him. He stayed in there. He fought tonight. I would give JJ credit for calling him a warrior because he played tough tonight.
If you go back to early last season, Rui had some problems. He had a concussion, then he had a nasal fracture. He was wearing a mask for a while, about almost a year and a half ago. And you could tell tonight he came back. James, he had this really clear mask on. It looked like he was squeezing his face a little bit, maybe a little too small. He threw that one away. Then he came back with a black mask. He just looked tougher in the mask, and he was much better in that second half. It's an adjustment, right, Rob? You get hit in the face, you're spitting up blood. You get a small little mask, get rid of that one, put the right one on, Allie.
You should write him that note.
I think
Tell me he looks tougher. We send this team to Minnesota, and he's speaking with Mike in the media.
Austin, pretty clearly the level of physicality went up for you guys. Was there anything defensively from an execution standpoint that you thought was different as well in Game 2 tonight?
No, I just thought we played harder. I spoke about, you know, how they play every single game, regular season, postseason. They play hard as shit. And if you don't meet that physicality with physicality, then you're seeing the result. So that was, you know, an emphasis going into the night was, you know, play harder.
Some looks from 3 that you usually hit weren't going down. Did you adjust and think about getting yourself to the bucket, getting into some of that mid-range action to get yourself going after that?
No, I don't really ever just sit there and think about, you know, shots I'm going to take. If I'm open, I'm going to shoot it. If not, I'm going to try to, you know, make a play for a teammate. Unfortunately, I got 4 good looks to start the game. let's say 3. One was not that good of a look. I shot it anyway, but just didn't make it. And if you start the game over, I have those 3 looks, 4 looks again. I'll probably shoot the bad one again too. So, yeah, I trust the work that I put in, and like I've said a million times, I just continue to try to play the game the right way.
Rui left the game early. I did written first. There you go. Left the game early. Had to get fitted for a mask. He threw that mask off, ended up trying another one out, and he's still mixing it up in there, both offensively and defensively. What do you think of his effort in kind of maybe being an example of the type of physicality that you all were able to play with tonight?
Yeah, I thought, you know, Rui was big for us tonight. You know, he didn't get that many shots, but the physicality that he played with on the defensive end, you know, even after, you know, get hit in the nose, whatever the situation is, he came back out and it, you know, didn't look like, you know, anything had happened other than him wearing a mask. He was out there, you know, competing his ass off every single possession. He had a couple really, really good possessions guarding Julius Randle in that third, fourth quarter, where, you know, he just, you know, stood his ground, made him take tough shots and didn't foul. So he was big for us tonight.
After Minnesota cut it to 11 midway through that third quarter, I think about midway through the third, JJ was pretty animated after you called timeout. What was the message to the in the huddle after that timeout was called, and what you make of the team's response? I think you guys went on a 9-0 run to get the lead back up to 20.
Well, you were asking what he was animated about?
What was he animated about? What was the message in the huddle?
Play better. Yeah, I don't know if y'all have talked to him. If he wants to say what he said, he can. Just say he wasn't happy, and we responded well.
Austin, you took that big charge when they were in transition late. What did you see on that play? And just also LeBron had his steal with the finish in transition. I think it got to like 9 at that point. Just what did you see in terms of your guys' defensive playmaking in crunch time?
I thought it was huge because our offensive playmaking in the fourth quarter was not what it usually is. I made a couple really bad plays. We had a couple turnovers, and in those situations, you just gotta, you know, lay it all out on the line and do whatever you can do to, you know, help your team win. And in the playoffs, you like I've spoke about, you win on, you know, the smallest margins, or you lose on the smallest margins. So a play like that in that situation, everybody on our team's ready to, you know, sacrifice their body to, you know, get a win.
Austin, you guys, I think, counting the regular season, have played them now 6 times and have really struggled to score the basketball 4 of those times. What is it about, specifically about their defense? I know you guys have changed, but what they do defensively that's so hard to crack?
You can start with them having really good individual defenders. I know Jaden McDaniels is a problem on that end of the floor. Ant's a problem on that end of the floor, and Nikhil. You could go through the whole line. You know, Rudy does a good job protecting the paint. I don't know. I'll have to rewatch the game. I think that we got looks that we were happy with in a lot of situations. We just didn't make them. And but like I said, they're, you know, I think their identity is to play hard and be physical and do that on both ends of the floor. So they got a good group that, you know, guards hard, and we got to, you know, be more deliberate on the offensive end to, you know, get ourselves in good positions to be successful.
Around.
2 questions. Dan has a follow-up, and then we'll
Around mid-December, you guys started to forge an identity where you guys played really hard too. Like, it became kind of a core principal part of what this team was, and it's faded at times down the stretch. But I guess, how comfortable do you think this group was having to win a game this way tonight, knowing that you guys have won games this way at times throughout the season?
Like you said, we've done it multiple times this year. You know, I think you could go back and, you know, throughout the midst of the regular season, you lose a couple games, and then you might not be playing as good as you want offensively, defensively. And the one thing that you can always, go back to is competing as hard as you possibly can every possession. And I feel like that's what we did tonight from the start, to the end of the game. Every single possession, everybody was locked in. Everybody was willing to do whatever it took to, get this win. And it's got to be like that because they got a group of guys that's going to do that as well. So, yeah, we're comfortable with having to play like that.
Hey, Austin. JJ said that there were signs that tonight was going to be different. Obviously, you guys had a great practice. I'm curious, was there anything said in the group chat or anything in the locker room pregame, or what did you see that let you know that the team was going to come out with the requisite physicality tonight?
I think it just goes back to the other night when we basically got punked. Like, as you call a spade, they come in here game one and punked us, and you could tell from the energy in the locker room after the game that nobody was worried about what we have. We just had to go out there and like I said, compete every single possession. And like you said, we had a really good practice yesterday, and that kind of just ensured kind of where the headspace was, and the knowing of what we were going to have to do to come out here and get a win. Thank you.
Austin saying they basically punked us, Minnesota did in game one. How would the Lakers respond? Well, we knew it would start with the big three, and you see the results tonight. I think a big thing here was the way in which they kept the ball moving. 21 of the Lakers' 23 assists came from these three. Big game, but specifically for Austin, 16 in game one, 16 at 5-5 tonight. May have not, as Rob mentioned earlier, had the three ball going, didn't hit a three tonight, which we know he is very capable of, 38% during the regular season. But you think of the little things that he's able to do and willing to do, the charge late down the stretch.
Yeah, that's always a big part of his game. He might not be
3-point games to start his Laker playoff career. Luka is now speaking with Mike in the media.
Luka, a lot of you guys told us what you needed to do after game one, and it seems like you did that with the physicality and the effort on defense. Is there anything execution-wise that stood out to you on that end?
Are you talking about defense or offense?
Yeah, defense.
No, we did the same game plan. We didn't really change much. It was just the question of if we're going to be more physical or not, and I think we showed that. And we were there for 48 minutes. And we got big enough first quarter. I learned from the last game, and we just stick to it.
You of course have experience with Minnesota from last year. You know what it's like as they go throughout a series. Playing in that building, how do you feel like that energy is going to be as you go there 1-to-1?
Oh, it's going to be high. I remember that they have amazing fans and they're very loud. So from the first moment, they're going to make at some point they're going to make a run, but we got to stay together. It's us against the whole arena, so it's going to be very tough. I experienced that, and it wasn't easy. So we got to stay together no matter what.
Luka, they cut it to 11 in the third.
When you ask me about the paint, when we touch the paint, it's a lot of openings, and like I said, we got to do that more. And I think we shared the ball great today, and we got to keep doing that.
Luka, vimos esa energía, qué tan físicos fueron en el primer cuarto, incluso la energía de la gente, tu celebración. ¿Qué mensaje se mandó desde el inicio imponiendo ese ritmo de lo que es esta serie?
Sí, hemos empezado bien los dos partidos. En el primero no continuamos bien, pero creo que hoy hacemos un buen esfuerzo para estar en el partido. Hemos jugado muy duro, 48 minutos, y eso tenemos que seguir haciendo. Y bueno, la gente estuvo en el partido y eso lo agradezco mucho.
Luka, buenas noches. Primero que nada, felicitarte por la victoria. Ahora es ganar el próximo jueves por allá en Minnesota, arrebatarles ese juego que les arrebataron aquí en Los Ángeles, ¿verdad?
Sí, queremos jugar, ganar todos los partidos que podamos. Como hemos hablado, va a ser muy duro ahí. He jugado ahí, sé cómo es y va a ser muy duro. Tenemos que estar juntos todos los 48 minutos.
Luka, tu experiencia en playoffs contra el equipo de Minnesota después de todos los juegos que has tenido contra ellos, como que ya te conocen, pero como que tú también los conoces a ellos, entonces se convierte en una lucha muy difícil para ti, pero también para ellos.
Sí, bueno, como hemos visto hoy, ha sido muy duro todo el partido de ambos equipos, pero ir ahí, como he dicho antes, es muy difícil jugar ahí. Tenemos que estar juntos y no soy solo yo, es todo el equipo, tenemos que estar juntos.
Hey Luka, over here to Red. Right after the trade this year, you watched this team play a couple games, and it was at the stretch of the season where they're kind of like defensive-minded, sell-out for every possession sort of mentality was really being forged. Do you remember when you saw guys like LeBron and Doe, but like Vanderbilt and Goodwin kind of flying around? Do you remember thinking about how hard the team you were joining was playing, and how valuable do you think that experience was tonight in a series we're going to have to play that way?
Yeah, I think they were playing like that the way we played today. And I remember that we went on a 7 or 8 game-winning streak. We were playing this kind of defense. And when we play this kind of defense for 48 minutes, I mean, it gives us a really good chance to win.
And Luka, just to follow up on that defense in the fourth quarter tonight, when they cut it to 9, Ant's dribbling down, and LeBron comes up and steals it. What did that kind of tell you about his effort and defensively?
Yeah, I mean, it was a great play. They were on a run, and he made a great play. He made a winning play, and that's what I really appreciate of him.
Thanks, Luka.
Thank you.
Time for Big Shots Breakdown, and we are breaking it down. Ball movement.
Yes, we're going to show you why the Lakers were successful tonight. They let the specialists play, and they moved this rock, and Big Shots Breakdown. Right here, you get AR coming on the pick and roll. Luka says, okay, I got it. What I want to do up top. We're going to have a back pick, or we're going to have right here LeBron with a curl. But no, we're going to have a Finney Smith backdoor cut. Unable to handle it. Passes. Look, we just showed this and earlier, so y'all can see that now. But this is a better one because you already seen that like 10 times. But this one right here, you get a one-on-one. Luka sees the defense is going to try to double it. He jumps up, passes the ball to Durant. Durant gets look at it. He gets 1, 2, 3 defenders coming. It's about drive and kick. He drove, he kicks it to Gabe Vincent for a boom, knockdown 3. Now you got great here, AR. Just want to shoot it past Luka. Luka pump fake, jab step, gets to the middle of the paint. This is the biggest problem. Don't let someone get to the middle of the paint. Minnesota does. Jordan Finney-Smith reads the defense, cuts back door for an easy bucket. Now we get another ISO situation. We got Gobert. You pump fake, gets it back, gets Gobert on skates. Gobert, what are you gonna do? I'm gonna get to the middle. We just talked about it. We got 1, 2, 3, 4 Minnesota defenders looking at the best man in the game. He gives it to Dorian Finney-Smith. Dorian Finney-Smith knocks down the 3. But as you can see in these clips, when you're able to get to the teeth of that defense, because we know how good Minnesota's defense is, it causes them to shift more and lose conscience, lose sight of their men. So you got to be able to do that, and it's going to be really important to do it on the road, Allie.
Indeed. Obviously, Luka said we're going to have to be ready. It's going to be a war going out there. The 23 assists tonight compared to just the 15 in Game 1. They had 14 through the first half. I think just setting the tone of that ball movement is key, big game.
It is key, and I think it's for guys like Gabe, Benny Smith, Vanderbilt, all the other guys that aren't like, a main offensive, threat. They need to get those back cuts that we saw. Some of those, and move the ball around. Because Minnesota, like I said earlier, their defense is too good. They're too by Luka getting to the threat of the defense. So, yeah, good ball movement. I like, 2 or 3 passes sometime. We saw that one play where Luka started with the ball. It moved all the way around the horn, came back to him for a 3. That's the kind of movement that makes the defense shift so you can find those open shots.
I wonder, too, if just getting back into it, because you kind of mentioned at the top of the show, taking the week off, having the week off, if just getting back in that rhythm and flow.
Yeah, I think sometimes people forget when you have a good rhythm going into the end of the season, and then, okay, you have a couple of games off because you're